Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Breaking Barriers. I hope everybody out there is creating a great day. With me, I had the lovely Cassie Petrey. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to chat.
So I've seen the research and stuff that we've done. Obviously, we've seen that, you are a co-founder in CrowdSurf. For people out there, like, who is Cassie? What is that? Give us a quick rundown.
Yeah, so I'm Cassie. I am a co-founder and co-CEO of a company called CrowdSurf. We're traditionally known for digital marketing in the music and entertainment industry, but over the past couple of years, I've also really started exploring artist management and have several clients in that world as well, and just some other,
Very
sort
cool.
of interesting projects. Yeah.
How is that? And so many people, obviously, everybody, like, they love celebrities and artists and stuff like that. Over the years that you've been doing what you're doing, have you had any like big like fan moments where it's like, oh, I met this person or I'm working with this person that really stuck out to you?
It's weird. I feel like I don't feel them in the moment, but looking back on them, or like when I'm telling somebody about my workday, I remember a moment for me that felt kind of crazy was I work with Britney Spears, and I remember we were planning the Elton John and Britney Spears release. And I think I called my mom and I said something along the lines of, oh yeah, like I just gave my feedback on like this new version of Tiny Dancer that's going to be called Hold Me Closer. And she's like, you do realize that that's like insane that you're giving feedback on a classic Elton John song that's being remade with one of the biggest modern pop stars. Like you say that so
Yeah.
casually, but it's not casual. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it's not. I think I don't realize some of the things that come out of my mouth aren't, they sound like everyday mundane tasks and they're really not. So
Oh my
that can be
goodness.
kind of, yeah.
That's so cool, Cassie. And you know what though? I feel like sometimes when you're in it and you're in the zone and like you're doing these different things, like you get blinded a little bit to that stuff, or it kind of numbs it away. But that's so cool. You should be really proud of yourself to be able to work at that level and work with people like that. So that's really exciting. I want to start here. So what have you like experienced to be one of the hardest things for yourself as an entrepreneur? So being a co-founder, being a co-CEO, what has been some of the biggest challenges that you faced? Let's start with leadership, right? What have been some things that you've learned over the years? You're like, wow, if I knew that when I first started and started building a team, like this would have been priceless. Like, is there any leadership golden nuggets you can drop for the listeners here?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned, and I think I'm still learning this, is that everyone is not motivated by the same things that I'm motivated by. And if they were, they would probably be running an entertainment marketing and management company and not working CrowdSurf. So that's I think just understanding that everyone's different.
Right.
And I think sometimes I would, especially in the beginning of my career, I would take the put yourself in the other person's shoes thing from the perspective of like pretending they were me versus actually trying to be in their shoes, if
Right.
that makes sense. Like I've tried to treat them as I would want to be treated, but that's not always the right thing to do. You have to treat them like they want to be treated. And so
Yeah.
I think learning that and picking up those cues and sort of being able to quickly identify what motivates and demotivates, certain people is a skill I'm still working on and want to get better at.
Yeah, wow. So that is a big golden nugget. I really appreciate you bringing that up. I think I earlier in my phase, I can attest to this for anybody listening in right now. Like, I remember specifically, I'm like, I started my company, my agency when I was like 17. It was the first business that I started, obviously. And so fast forward, like at the time, like I was just like super high energy, like really aggressive, like looking at like the way that like I look at things, right? And thinking that the things that motivate me are going to motivate my team, right? So like me being like, motivational. Some people don't want that shit. They don't want it. Like they think it's just rah bullshit. So it's like over the years, I had to learn that like what motivates me doesn't motivate everybody else. So I think it's such a powerful thing. And it goes from whether it's monetary, whether it's, just how they actually motivate themselves. It could be, more about recognition than it is about money, or it could be more about culture than it is whatever. So there's so many different facets and levers, and I appreciate you sharing that. And anybody listening in, I think that's such a big deal is in leadership. It's understanding what motivates your team, and not everybody's going to have the same factors that motivate them. So it's so big. I appreciate that. Talk to me about being a co-CEO. How is that? I hear that's like more of a popular thing lately where people are doing it together. How is that? And do you find yourself bucking head to head sometimes, or what does that look like?
So, so I'm co-CEO with my business partner, and we both founded
Yeah.
the company 15 years ago. So it's always been a team effort. And I think we have a really good flow now. I think at the beginning of the business, we maybe sort of butt heads because we both thought we needed to be doing the same thing because we both have the same title.
Right.
And I think once we came to accept that that didn't need to be that way and that we had strengths and weaknesses, we really were able to really expand our company and be able to do a better job and provide a better service to both our clients and to be better, team members to our internal staff. So, that I think that's one thing in terms of that. I think the other thing is that I've talked to a lot of people who are co-founders or, have business partners, and I realize how lucky I am to have my business partner, Jade, because I've realized that we disagree on some things, but on the big stuff, we really
Mhm.
agree in terms of um, I think like our moral compass is similar. I think how we want to reinvest money into the business, how much we want to pay ourselves, how
Right.
much time we want to spend on the business. We're really on the same page about that kind of stuff. And when you're on the same page about those really big key things, the other stuff you can always figure out how to work out. And I've seen a lot of my friends' businesses fall apart because they weren't on the same page about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it can go ugly, but that's so amazing. In 15 years, like again, like congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Again, I think the average I think is like most businesses fail in the first like 1 to 3 is like 90% or some crazy absurd number. And then it gets less and less as you get obviously older and age as a company. But it's really cool to see that though, and that's really cool. And so what have been like what would you say was like your biggest challenge in scaling your company, right? So a lot of people email in or comment in and say, hey, like, I really want to scale my organization. Like, how do I get in front of more customers? Or, so what did you guys find for you? 15 years obviously means that you guys had a pretty decent lead acquisition, at least, to keep you afloat. So what has been like, and what advice would you give to like a small business owner on just like building their scale?
Yeah, on scale, I think that so we're not huge. We never did the thing that I think a lot of modern companies do, which is, have a vision, either raise money in the beginning of the company or raise money to scale. We still own the business 50/50, and we've had offers for different types of investments over the years, but
Right.
for this business in particular, we didn't feel like it was the right decision.
Yeah.
And we've always we've always hired after we got business. So
Right.
we would secure the work first before we would hire the people to do it.
Right.
And I think that has really, worked for us and has never made us feel overwhelmed. We have about 50 employees now. We've in over 15 years we grew to that slowly. So it never felt like
Right.
we went to a big scale phase. And I'm glad because it honestly scaling aggressively sounds really stressful, and I could see why people would need a lot of advice on that because it's stressful on you, it's stressful on your team, it's probably stressful on your clients because they're getting less attention and you're having to
Feel
train a lot of people.
yeah.
It sounds really tough, and I'm glad that we've never had a big scale moment because that sounds very stressful to me.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
experienced that. I've experienced that personally as when we started growing the agency,
yeah,
we went from being this localized agency, to then we were in 20 countries. And
yeah,
as we started scaling to that level, it's like insane because you have to have talent recruitment on point. You have to have effective strategies on point and changing and innovation. The list goes on and on, obviously. But point being is like I've been in that headache spot, in that stress spot, and it made us, reconfigure our thought process on our growth. So I definitely agree with that. That's always been. But so going back to that question then. So what's been like, what advice would you give people on getting new clients? Like what has been a good effective strategy for you in terms of getting new entertainment clients and getting in front of them and all that good stuff?
Lucky for me, I don't really have to do much work in terms of outreach. In fact, I find that outreach, at least in entertainment, generally doesn't go over well.
Right.
It's all about somebody asking for a recommendation and somebody recommending you.
Right.
And every job we've ever gotten has always been because we did a good job for somebody else and somebody
Mm,
told about it. It's all word of mouth behind the scenes. And then doing a great pitch when the opportunity arises to pitch for that project. But we've been lucky. We don't have to do a lot of, aggressive outreach because it's, we're a business to business. It's not really that kind of,
yeah.
product
B2B,
fortunately.
not consumer based.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool though. So I love that, and I think everybody that's listening right now, I think that's the big component is you'll never get the biggest client acquisition for most businesses are word of mouth when you do something the right way. So if you have a good product or a good service offering and you do the right thing by your customer, that's what typically happens, right? The word starts spreading like wildfire. So it's really cool. So over the years, that's how you built up obviously your company, and that's cool to see that. So where do you see CrowdSurf going? Like what's like the next 5 to 10 years look like for you guys?
Yeah. So our general underlying goal is pretty simple. Our goal is to help artists, people share their gift with the world. And
Hmm.
that's pretty vague, and it's kind of vague for a reason because we started in one place and we've really evolved to have so many other services, and all those services have come out of wanting to help artists and seeing needs that they had.
Hmm.
So we've gotten into artist management more the past couple years because a lot of artists that I was finding on TikTok and I would flag up to a great manager that I work with, they would always say, "This is too early for me." And I was like, when is it not too early though? And this is when it's too early is when I feel like people need help the most.
Right.
So I was like, I want to help these people. So if I think they're amazing, I believe in them. Obviously, I'm already recommending them to people. So why don't I just manage them myself? So
Right.
that's where, and I've always wanted to do artist management. It's just about finding the right artist at the right time. And I feel like
Right.
now's the right time. I'm really proud of the artist roster we've built this year and we actually have a lot of music coming out from these artists we've been working on all year that's coming out at the end of the year. So I think artist management will continue to be a big part of CrowdSurf. And of course, our digital marketing services will continue to be there. And then I just want to, I really look up to companies that have multiple like entertainment industry facets that they play in.
Right.
So I see some sort of level of like maybe some production, whether it's a television show or something else, and maybe some new tech development or investment as well.
Mhm.
But those are some other two categories. I think when the right opportunity arises, I think we'll play in those sandboxes as well.
That's really cool. That's really exciting though as well. Um, is there anybody right now that you're like super like, whether it's a book, whether it's like some sort of thing you're training or learning, like who inspires you right now that you're like watching or reading, or is there somebody out there in the world in leadership, thought leadership, something business related that you're really inspired by?
Oh man, that's tough because I went through my phase of, especially during COVID, of like following all the big entrepreneurs and being inspired by their short form content and TikTok or what they post on LinkedIn and that sort of thing. And I think I do still admire that content and get inspired by it in different ways, but kind of maybe not quite as intensely as I used to. Like
Right.
I love everyone on, Shark Tank, and I think,
Yeah.
Cardone, Gary Vee, all like sort of the
Yeah.
classics. But one person I've been really inspired by recently, and I've kind of been doing a deep dive on his interviews, and this is gonna sound super random, but I'm loving Arnold Schwarzenegger
Oh
and
wow. Okay.
everything. And I really one thing I really admire about, I love watching like hour-long interviews with him because he's so smart and he's been so many different things in his career. But I think the thing that he's done really well is he always knows when to pivot. He knows when when he's been in a category for too long and he's gonna move. So
Right.
like he did bodybuilding, and I think as soon as he knows when his decline is gonna happen in a category, he pivots to something else. And I think that's really smart and something that I want to make sure I'm on top of it. He never abandoned bodybuilding by any means. I mean, look at him. Like he's, that's still part of his life, but he didn't make that his sole focus anymore at one point. And then, moved from movies to politics to philanthropy. And then I know he has some other endeavors coming up now. And I appreciate like his ability to pivot. And I think Richard Branson has some of that too, in terms of, and I admire Richard Branson in general because he sort of started in, entertainment kind of in a way that I did. And
Yeah.
really made things from, phones to trains to hotels to records. Like I think that's really cool that he just followed what he was interested in. So those are two that I admire because I think they did a really good job sort of expanding their footprint and weren't scared to try things that maybe other people thought they would fail at.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's so fire. I'm a big fan of both, especially Branson.
Yeah.
Has been recently. He's been really motivating me. I think when he went on the mission to go into orbit with his team, like it was really cool that he had a moment where he was just like talking about how like anything's achievable. Like don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Like look at me up here. I feel like a kid, and like boom, I'm able to do this because I believed and thought I could. So I love him. So anybody who doesn't know who Richard is, I highly recommend you look him up. I feel like everybody should know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is. If you don't, definitely look him up as well. So listen, so this is where we get to the part of the interview where, we dive in on just like what I like to put people on the spot, right, for the last question. And this one is really based around like just an adage. Is there any like adage, saying, quote that in tough times or difficulty that over the years that really resonated with you? And it could be a Cassie OG original, but like something like that that's really resonated with you.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I love the Four Agreements.
Mm,
I could get into that all the time. I feel like I have a mini version of it that's actually in my backpack.
okay.
And whenever there's something bothering me, whether it's personal or business, I feel like if I really go through that topic, at least one, if not more of the agreements will identify the issue that I'm having. But I
Mm,
would say my favorite of the Four Agreements is don't make assumptions. I
mm,
think a lot of times we, sort of, I can get on an ego trip in the sense of I've been right about, X and X and X. I know I'm right about this. And I'm not. Something happened to me a couple weeks ago where I was supposed to have a meeting with somebody in New York City, and that person kind of blew me off like by literally not responding at all that day. And I took it as I made up a lot of reasons in my head why that person didn't have the meeting with me. And then I looked on social media at the end of the day, and she had talked about how it was the anniversary of her mom's death.
oh
And
wow.
and I made it all about me. Like I made the whole
Mm,
thing about like how this person didn't like me because either this person told them that or they don't want to hire me or whatever it is. And it
right.
really what happened had nothing to do with me. And I think that's those kind of moments are humbling, but I shouldn't have made an assumption. And another for agreement that as a part of that is everything somebody does is not about you, it's about them. And that moment really had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with her. So it was just,
That's
kind of
powerful.
humbling to go through that. Yeah.
That's powerful. Just to speak to that, have you ever heard of Stephen Covey?
Yes.
So for anybody who doesn't know, definitely look Stephen up. He's definitely a thought leader in leadership in corporate America. But one of the things that blew my mind, the 7 principles of success of high performing people in his book, he talks about almost exactly what you're talking about, where it's like you assume and you get before you have all details. And he talks about how he was on this train in the city going to an event, and there was this man and his 2 kids, younger kids, and they were just running around the train, making a ruckus, yelling, screaming. People were on phones doing things, and like they were so disruptive. So he said, you know, this guy was just sitting there watching his kids like be disruptive, wasn't like controlling the kids, and in his mind, he said, he goes, if they do one more thing, I'm gonna like say something to the dad. And so of course they did, being kids. And he said to the dad, can you please get a grip of your kids? They're disrupting the whole train. And the dad very somberly was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Between us, like I'm a little out of it. We just went to the mother's funeral, and it's the first time like they're being happy and running around. So I just wanted to let them be happy. And he was like, wanted to like literally like, oh my God, like just crawl into a freaking hole, right? Because like he assumed that like he was just not being a good father or like not disciplining his kids, when in all reality, what happened? He was coming back from a funeral. His kids were just being happy. He wanted them to enjoy that happiness because of what was going on. And so to your point, it's like you never know what somebody's going through. And it's so powerful, your self-awareness, that you identify that like that wasn't about you. That was about whatever she had going on. So powerful. I love that. And so we're at the end of the journey here. I'm so grateful for you to spend some time with us here. And this is where you plug yourself. Where can people find you, interact with you, and see what you got going on?
Yeah, so I'm on social media across all handles at Cassie Cassie Petrey Petrey. I would say I primarily engage with people mostly in DMs versus publicly. I don't know. I connect with people more that way. It's just my
It's
style.
easier.
So if you want
Yeah,
to talk about something, just I check my DMs, DM me. I love talking and learning and helping where I can.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time today. It's extremely, I'm really grateful for it. I think time is the one asset we don't get back. So you spending it here with us means the world to me. And we're grateful. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Everybody listening in, create a great rest of your day, whether it's evening, morning, whatever it is. Create a good one. You are in charge of it. And thank you again to you. We appreciate you.